have no objection. You indicated that at that point in time. Is that correct?
Yes.
All the court was asking you would it be okay if Mr. McCarthy stood in, but you added you thought he was very capable. Is that correct?
Based on what the judge told me, yes.
Sir, can you answer the question without qualifying it? Was that a yes?
Your Honor, he's trying his best to answer.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's not. Answer the question either yes or no. And as I indicated, your counsel, Mr. Ambrose, is going to have an opportunity to expound.
Yes.
Okay, please.
And again, on November 19th, 2014, the subject came up again. You recall?
What was the date? I'm sorry.
November 19th, 2014.
Okay.
Page 4, counsel. The court. Mr. Bashara, Ms. Diallo is not here today. She's sick. Defendant, I hope she's feeling better. Court, do you feel competent and will you agree to allow Mr. McCarthy to go forward and examine the witnesses today? Your answer, I do. I am very confident in Mr. McCarthy's abilities and his handling of my case. Yes. You indicated that. Is that correct?
Yes.
You indicated that of your own free will and choice. Is that correct?
Yes.
Nobody forced you to add those superlatives. Is that correct?
No. No one forced me.
And further on that page, Mr. McCarthy says, yes, Your Honor, we've divided up the labor of examining the witnesses, but we worked together on a strategy for dealing with each witness from the beginning so that if something like this were to occur, each of us is prepared to go forward with any witnesses that the people present, the court. And do you have no objection to that, do you, Mr. Bashara? And you answered, I do not. Is that correct? You answered, I do not?
Yes.
And you heard Mr. McCarthy say at that point in time that they worked together on a strategy. Is that correct?
That the two of them worked together?
Yes.
I assume so.
You heard it when he said it in court. Is that correct?
I heard it when he said it in court.
And at that point, you did not object and say, Judge, the strategy that they worked out is not the strategy that I want. You did not say that. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
Further, you spoke last week when you testified about certain witnesses that you wanted called. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you made a motion for an improper motion on the date you were sentenced. Is that correct?
I made two of them, yes.
And one of them, on the date that you were sentenced, on page 14, you indicated it was an emergency motion for ineffective assistance of counsel. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And you stood up in open court and told the court at that point in time what you were dissatisfied with. Is that correct?
I summarized it, yes.
Okay. And in your summary, you did not list a single name of witnesses that were not called that you asked to be called. Is that correct?
I don't recall what I said at the time, as I do recall not wanting to burden the court's time. I summarized the motion, but the motion spoke for itself as to those I didn't want called.
But at any rate, when you said the highlights of my motions, it goes further to document the failure to call witnesses I wanted to call. You said that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you did not list each and every witness that you wanted to have called, correct?
I did not.
Thank you.
As I recall, no.
And for the record, how many pages was each motion? Do you know, Madam?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
The first motion for preserving the record was 17 pages.
And that was front and back?
No.
Just front?
Single side.
And okay, and the second motion?
For ineffective assistance was 28 pages, including an appendix of 1 page. And then you instructed me to write down the community service listing, and I was hurried through it by Mr. McCarthy and Ms. Diallo, and I did a page and a half, but it was part and partial. It wasn't complete at all.
Okay, but you wrote down 28 pages on one and 17 pages on another.
Yes, yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay, so that's around 50-something pages.
28 and 17 would be 45.
45 pages. And in any of those pages, you didn't list any witnesses that you wanted?
Absolutely, I did.
But you didn't say, my question to you is what you indicated in open court. You did not say the names in open court. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. My motion to...
Sir, your question was
Well, I was
answered.
answering the
asked-
judge's question.
No, I asked you a question. She was finished asking questions. If the judge wants to ask you additional questions, I'm sure she will.
Okay?
Thank you. Now, when we spoke on Friday, excuse me, yeah, it was Friday, I believe, you indicated that when the police spoke to you, you told them that you had given them names of other people. Is that correct?
At what time, Counsel?
When the first meeting you claimed with Olson and Captain Locke, you indicated to them, you gave them the names of people who were threatening you. Is that correct? Or you thought might want to do you harm. Is that correct?
That's what didn't you testify to that Friday?
I did.
Okay.
I did. The answer is yes.
Okay. You also indicated at Friday that you wanted to show them or play them the voicemail, but they didn't ask for to listen to it. Is that correct?
I don't recall them asking, no.
Okay.
And I did offer.
You did offer to play them the voicemail you had. And who was the voicemail from, Mr. Popham?
Yes,
Okay. And you offered to play them the voicemail at that point in time, correct?
that is correct.
Okay. You didn't offer to play them any voicemails from threatening voicemails from Mr. Gintz, did you?
Pardon me?
You didn't offer to play them any threatening voicemails from Mr. Gintz, correct?
I never had any threatening voicemails from Mr. Gentz.
You didn't offer to show them any threatening text messages from Mr. Gintz, is that correct?
I never had a threatening text message from Mr. Gentz.
Okay. You didn't offer to show them any harassing text messages from Mr. Gintz, correct?
Correct.
Now, can we have, but you indicated you were scared of him, correct?
No, I wasn't. Mr. Gentz you're talking about, or
Yes.
Mr. Popham?
Mr. Gintz.
No, I was not scared of Mr. Gentz.
And you never indicated to anyone that you were scared of Mr. Gintz.
I don't
correct?
recall indicating that because it wasn't true.
Okay. Can we have 33H?
If this is somebody you're trying to help out, how does he go from someone who needs help to someone you're scared of?
Well, I'll tell you, because he kept calling me, and the tone of his calls over the past 3 or 4 weeks got a little more insistent. I need some money, and I know you've helped me out, but I need more money from you. I'm going to lose my daughter. He had an issue with his daughter in court or something with a custody thing.
Before we played the clip, you indicated that you were never scared of Mr. Gintz, correct?
That's correct.
In the clip, the reporter asked you, how do you go from trying to help him to being scared of him, correct?
The report, no, ma'am, yes, that's what the reporter said.
Okay, and you did not at that point in time say, I'm not scared of Mr. Gintz, did you?
I did not say that. No, I did not use those words.
Thank you. Now, did you further indicate that Mr. Gintz sent you several texts in the weeks leading up to your wife's murder?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Did Mr. Gintz send you several texts in the weeks leading up to your wife's murder?
No, I had one text from him at the end of December asking for $50. And then before that, I think there was one previous to that where he told me to call him, and I told him I was in a meeting. And
So you're saying you only had one text?
I had 2 texts from him, as I recall.
Okay. Can we have 33G?
How many times did you say you texted him in the last 3 weeks?
A couple, just because he texted me, call me, do this, and I just said, leave me alone. I really called him back. When he texted me, I would call him back and say, please don't bother me. I'm not giving you any more work. We're done. And I paid him the $452 from a business checking account. And we were done.
And the $450 was for what?
For work that he did, these menial tasks in December and January.
So 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, you maybe talk.
Now, as it relates to the one text you had where he said, could you loan, and to be clear, he asked you, could he loan you, could you loan him $50? That was the text. You remember that?
I do.
And do you recall texting him back, I'm out of town, I'll call you back?
Yes.
Okay. You did not say, stop texting me, I'm not going to loan you money. In that text, did you?
I did not.
And furthermore, when Mr. Brewstar came to your house to take down the information to forward to the police, you did not show him that text, did you?
I don't save my text messages, no.
You don't save your text messages?
I do not.
Okay. None of them.
Well, I don't recall if I saved one or two, but I typically didn't save text messages, no.
Okay. Well, do you recall indicating to, on Friday that you wanted to show or you wanted to let the officers listen to your voicemails where Popham had threatened you?
Yes,
You did, in fact, go into the police station when Mr. Popham was making his phone calls to you. Is that correct? You walked into the police department of Grosse Pointe Park, correct, to write out a written statement on Mr. Popham.
on what day is that?
Sir, I'm asking on any day.
I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't recall that I did it. I need to know frame of reference.
Well, I'll give you a frame of reference.
Okay, thank you.
Do you recognize the signature on the bottom of that page?
This is my writing and my signature.
Okay. Is it your writing on the statement?
Yes,
Okay. So you, in fact, wrote out a statement concerning your dealings with Mr. Popham. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Read it over to yourself. And when you're finished, let me know.
I'm done.
Okay. You've had a chance to read that, haven't you?
I just did, yes.
And in that statement that you made when you made your original report on Mr. Popham, you don't mention a single voicemail, do you?
Voicemail or
Did I say voicemail?
well, let me reread it because
Take your time.
Let me know when you're finished.
35 calls and
Don't
then
read it out loud.
and
Read it to yourself.
okay, I have.
Okay, are you prepared to answer the question? About whether or not you saved those voicemails for Mr. Popham?
I don't have the word voicemails, but I have the word calls.
Okay. I understand. There's a difference between a call and a voicemail, correct?
Pardon me? Call and a voicemail?
Yes. There's a difference between having a call and a voicemail. Is that correct?
Well, a voicemail is a call to a phone left on the recording. So no, there's no difference.
Okay. Do you ever say that you're showing them or you bring a voicemail into the police?
No, they didn't ask me for it, and I didn't provide it to them.
Okay, just like they didn't ask you for the voicemail, just like Locke and Olson never asked you for the voicemail. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you talk about text messages?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you indicate that there was a recent text message where Mr. Popham said that you basically were messing with the wrong, the most recent text message refers to him being a Marine, and I had made a big mistake by crossing him.
I may have confused the word text message with voicemail,
Okay.
but
Let's stop right here. Let's talk about this confusion. Now, when you talk about confusion earlier in your testimony, your confusion confusion stemmed from the fact that your wife had been brutally murdered. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
When you first talked about confusion during the course of your testimony, you indicated that that confusion was related to the fact that your wife had been brutally murdered, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, back in November of 2011, when you are making this report on Mr. Popham, your wife is still alive, correct?
Yes, she is.
Okay. So now we have another source of confusion.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, but now you seem to be confused about something else, whether you were using the word text and voicemail interchangeably.
Ma'am, I refer. It's not a question. You asked me. Is it interchangeable? And I'm answering your question.
Did you use the word text message and voicemail interchangeably?
No.
Okay. Now, certainly, since you indicated that you didn't save your text messages, you would not have had any text message to show the police on the 25th when they came to your house, correct?
From what time period?
You're the one who said you have it from any time period.
No, I saved some text messages, but others I deleted. I saved them as I needed, and I deleted as I needed.
So,
But you didn't save the ones that you got from Mr. Popham.
No, I did not.
Why not?
I say because I had the voicemail message from him
Well, you didn't
threatening me.
but you didn't put voicemail. You didn't.
At the time of this statement, I think he left me that threatening voicemail after the time of this statement. He did use the term "I'm a Marine" and all that,
Okay, well,
but that was
let's
prior
explore.
to. But there's
Let's
also.
explore this. Let's explore this.
Okay, go ahead.
If he left a threatening voicemail after he filed this report, did you call and make a supplemental report?
No,
Thank you.
he was in jail. I did
My
not.
question was, did you make
No,
a
I
supplemental
didn't.
report?
No, I did not.
Now, also, you indicated that there was somebody else. But at any rate, when you felt threatened by Mr. Popham, you physically went yourself to the police department. Is that correct?
Yes,
At some point in time, you felt threatened in 2011 by somebody by the name of Kim Soley. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. And that was in February of 2011. Is that correct?
I don't recall the date, but if you tell me that, I'll take that as true.
Do you spell that last name for the record, madam?
Soley.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Am I just reading the page you handed me, or both pages?
Whatever you want to read, sir. Let
Take
me
your
know when you're
time.
ready.
Read both of them.
I'm done.
Okay. On February 25th, 2011, you had phone contact with Mr. Soley. Is that correct?
I don't recall. That's what it says here, but I don't. This is his statement, so I don't recall that we had phone contact.
This is the police report, sir.
This is the police report that was taken. Yeah, then that would be correct. Yeah, I don't recall it, but yes.
Okay, fine. The fact of the matter is you received a phone call from Mr. Soley. Is that correct?
I received several from him, yes.
Okay. And Mr. Soley indicated to you that he was coming to your house the following day. Is that correct?
No, he did not.
Well, per the police report, doesn't it say on February 25th, Soley contacted Bashara via cell phone and stated that tomorrow, Saturday, February 26th, he was
Oh, yes, he did say that in that message. I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you.
I apologize.
And at
Yeah.
that point, you immediately called the police. Is that correct?
No,
You called the police and asked them, well, within the same day, you called the police and asked them to put special attention on your home. Is
no,
that
I did
correct?
not.
Okay, could you read the rest of the report?
I did.
Bashara requests special attention to his residence on Saturday, February 26th, 26, 2011.
That's the next day after he showed up unannounced at my house. I dispatched the police to come out. He was escorted off my property, and then I asked could they provide special attention.
Read up on May 29, 2010. On May 29, 2010,
Right?
the PSD was dispatched to Bashara's residence, 552 Middlesex, and removed solely.
Right.
So that was the date they came and removed them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, once again, are you having trouble? Are you confused when you're reading this report?
Well, no,
Okay. Now let's take it step by step.
Uh-huh.
They removed him on May 29, 2010.
Right.
Per you calling them because he showed up unannounced, correct?
Right.
On February 25th, he contacted you via cell phone, correct?
Correct.
And stated that tomorrow, the following day, Saturday, February 26, 2011, at 8 a.m., he was coming to your residence, again, with the intention of collecting a debt. Is that correct?
Yes. 8 months later, yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, then call the police and ask for special attention to be put on your house the next morning?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So at least on 2 occasions, when you felt threatened, you took immediate action to get protection for yourself and your family. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But in the case of Joe Gentz calling you, asking you for money, you did not immediately call the police, correct?
Correct.
You did not immediately go into the station to report it, correct?
That's correct.
And you did not at any point in time ask for special attention to be put on your house, correct?
That is correct.
As a matter of fact, the first time you indicate to the police that Joe Gentz may have something to do with this is after you have become a personal interest, correct?
Correct. It was after, no, I take that, no, that's incorrect. Let me correct that. It is not correct.
Okay, correct it.
The first time that I had expressed concern is when I got the phone call from him on that Saturday morning, not on Friday when I was made a person of interest. So that's incorrect.
So when are you claiming you told the police about Gentz the first time?
Pardon me?
When are you claiming you told the police about Gentz the first time?
Through the letter through Mr. Brewstar,
Okay, that was on the 20, that was on, what's the date on the
29th.
Okay, and you were named a person of interest on the 27th, is that correct?
That's correct.
So then the first time you indicated to the police anything about Joe Gentz was after you became a person of interest, correct?
Correct.
And as it relates to Mr. Popham, didn't you indicate to PSO Hayes when he came to your house, when he brought up Popham, that Popham was not a credible threat to you? Did you indicate that?
That was what he was what?
Did you indicate to PSO Hayes
Yes.
when he came to your house to take the report about Jane being missing? When PSO Hayes brought up Popham, did you indicate to him that Popham was not a credible threat?
I don't recall him bringing up Popham at that point.
Okay. Now, at any rate, the voicemail you claim you had from Popham, you saved it, is that correct?
Yes.
You indicated the police did not listen to it the morning when they came to give you the notification about Jane, is that correct?
No, they did not.
Okay. You did not bring your phone with you on the 26th when you gave your statement to the police to further give them that information, is that correct?
It was in my car. I did not take it into the station.
So the answer to the question is you did not bring your phone into the interview, correct?
Not into the interview, no.
Okay.
You said, did I bring it to the station? And I did bring it to the station, but
Well, if
not,
the purpose was to show them the person who could be potentially involved in the brutal death of your wife, you didn't, during the course of being interviewed by the police, did you ever say, wait a minute, I got some leads for you, potential leads for you, let me go back out to my car, get my cell phone so you can get this information, did you? You didn't do that, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
Why didn't you?
Because at that point, I'd already given them his names, and they never asked me for it. And I, quite frankly, forgot that I even had the text message. And quite frankly, I don't even know if it was still saved at that point, because that's a year later.
Wait,
You said-
hold
wait
on for
a
a minute, wait. You said that because they didn't ask you about it, that you didn't provide it to them?
I did not.
Why? They're naming you, the focus is on you.
At that point, they hadn't named me a person of
Okay,
interest.
you're being interviewed about your wife and about who
Right.
brutally murdered her.
Right.
And
And
you don't, wait a minute,
Yep.
you don't offer up, pop them, and the voicemail and say, listen, I want you to listen to this.
I gave them the day before, or 2 days before, Popham and Blue's name. That's correct.
But you did not give them the voicemail.
That's correct.
Okay.
I did not.
Go ahead.
Okay. But you indicate, you said at that point you didn't know the focus on you, but last week when you were testifying, I showed you the page in your statement to the police. You say, I realize I have to verify my times because people are going to be looking at me. Remember that?
I'm sorry, repeat the question again.
Do you recall do you recall in your statement to the police on the 26th?
Mhm.
You look at the transcript. Do you recall the point when you said you knew your friends had told you that the police were going to be looking at you? And this
Yes.
might happen. So you knew when you went in there that the police might be looking at you, so you should provide them with other leads.
And I did the day before. And I also offered to Locke and Olson a basic time frame of where I was that evening because they asked me.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute, hold on for a minute. Now, on the 25th, you gave them Popham and Blue's name, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Did you, wait a minute,
Uh-huh.
did you ever go back in your phone and check to see, number one, if you had saved a voice message and or text messages after to bootstrap what you said to the police? Did you ever check your phone?
No, I don't recall doing that, no.
Why?
I don't know. Your Honor, I don't know what I was doing at that point. I was in such a fog, I really don't know.
Okay. Well, you indicate that one of the reasons, or the main reasons in your motion for new trial that you wanted to have Hiller brought forth is because you wanted to bring forth evidence of this grudge. Is that correct?
Evidence of what?
The grudge.
The grudge.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you spoke to the police, you spoke to some reporters on the day you were named a person of interest. Is that correct?
I don't recall what day I spoke to them. And
Do you recall speaking to Gina Damron and or Alicia Anderson?
no, I don't recall that.
Well, there's Miss Anderson in the courtroom. You don't remember talking to her?
I can't see her.
Miss Anderson. You don't remember, sir?
I don't recall, no. I'm sorry.
I just handed you an article saying police, husband of Grosse Pointe Park woman strangled to death is a suspect. Have I handed that article?
Yes.
Okay. And you see the date on that article being as 11:17 p.m., January 27, 2012.
Correct.
Okay. That is the date you were named a person of interest. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could you turn to the second page, please? Do you see some
Just
highlights?
wait a minute now. You're going too fast. Let them read it now.
Okay.
Let us know when you finish.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time. Everybody, let's take a stretch break while he finishes reading. Stand up, let's take a stretch break. You may be seated.
I've read it.
Okay. At the point in time, they're asking you about the treatment you're being given by the police. Is that correct?
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
Okay. Does the article indicate on Thursday, Bob Bashara told the Free Press that investigators have given him little information about his wife's death. He said treating me kind of at arm's length. Your direct quote was, as far as they're concerned and whatnot, they have to consider me a suspect. Is that what you said at that point in time?
Did you say that, sir?
I may have, yes.
Okay. You did not say at that point in time, they're considering me as a suspect because the Grosse Pointe Park Police Department chief has a grudge against me. You didn't say that at that point in time.
No.
Now,
Well, let me ask you this. Don't you think that it would have been helpful since the media was there and you felt that maybe they were zeroing on you to let them know about the potential bias that Chief Heller may have had against you?
Your Honor, I had my mother and my son with me, as I recall. It was a very informal, wasn't even a press conference. To say that it, I just told the Free Press. It wasn't. I didn't hold a press conference, or it wasn't anything formal. It was done in front of my house to say, please respect our privacy, as I recall, and then I made these statements.
But how
Because
wait a minute, hold on. How much would it have taken to say, you know what, police chief, Captain Locke, the police chief, they have a grudge against me, and this is all as a result of this grudge. How long would that have taken without going into detail
Right.
about what the grudge was about?
it wouldn't have taken that long at all, but I didn't say that.
Okay.
And I was told by.
There's no more question before you go ahead.
All right.
Now, you talked about your timeline and telling the police your timeline, and you indicated that you claimed that you told the police on the 27th about the change in your timeline. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Okay. Certainly, you made several statements. You made several statements in the media. Is that correct?
When are we talking about?
At any point, after you realized your timeline had changed, you made several statements in the media, correct?
Okay, my timeline did not change, and I did not make several statements prior to
let's do it
that.
this way. Certainly, after the 27th, in your mind, you had already told the police that you had went back to Keys. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And certainly, you did the interview for Dateline after you had told the police you went back for Keys. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So when was the interview for Dateline done?
I don't.
You know?
I don't recall when that was. I think it was March or April. It was later.
Okay.
And when you did your interview for Dateline, you did not indicate to them, I went back to the house for Keys, correct?
No, I did not.
And certainly, at that point in time, it was the truth that you had went back for Keys, correct?
It was the what?
The
truth.
that
The
you
tru-
had went back for Keys.
Yes, it
correct?
was. Absolutely.
And when you were doing your interviews for the press, you wanted to get your side of the story out and be truthful. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you did not tell them you went back to Keys, correct?
I already told the police that. I didn't think it was.
She said to Dateline.
No, I did not, because I wasn't asked that question. That's correct.
There are a lot of things that you specifically weren't asked that you volunteered information about. Is that correct?
I don't know what you have to give me a point of reference. I volunteered as much as I could. I fully cooperated from day one.
Did they ask you what was your timeline?
Who? The police?
Dateline. Did they say, explain what you did that day?
I don't recall.
Okay. But certainly you didn't want to leave out that, you weren't trying to obscure the fact in the media that you would, you
Well-
weren't trying to obscure the fact.
Explore, you said, or
Obscure.
obscure? I didn't understand the word she said. Obscure?
You
No.
weren't trying to obscure the
No,
fact.
absolutely not.
As a matter of fact, you know Eileen Stradilak?
I do.
And do you recall Eileen Stradilak's testimony concerning your conversation with her about the keys?
Yes.
And do you recall she indicated she confronted you with the article where the article said that somebody had seen you pulling your van out or your navigator out? Do you recall that?
I recall many conversations with Eileen. What time are we talking about? When did I have this conversation with her?
The conversation that she testified about when she confronted you about an article that was in the paper.
That was probably 3 weeks after the 24th.
January?
No, it would be in February, 3 weeks after January 24th, correct?
Okay. She indicated she confronted you about an article, correct?
Yes,
And she did in fact confront you about the article, is that correct?
that's correct. In fact, it would have had to been almost in March because that article didn't come out till the end of February.
Okay, now I'm a little bit confused because on Friday, Thursday and Friday, when I was asking you about media coverage of the case, when I was asking specifically about Gentz's competency hearings and everything, you basically were saying that you weren't following the case in the media, correct?
I don't think that's correct at all. I don't think I remember saying I wasn't following it to the T, but I was following it.
Okay, so you were following it in the media.
Well, my family members were following it.
Sir, were you or weren't you? One or the other?
I was, and I wasn't.
Okay.
It's the best I can answer that, Your Honor.
You
Well,
were.
what part were you following?
I didn't want, the media's account of everything was absurd and ridiculous. They were basically regurgitating what they were fed by law enforcement and the prosecution. So I really didn't buy into what they were saying. I knew it was false. So I tried to ignore it. My mother and other people at our house were watching and, would ask me questions about it, and I would recount things or talk to them about it.
Well, real quick.
Yes.
You were concerned about the case against Joe Gentz, and you wanted him to pay for what he did to his wife, correct?
Absolutely.
His wife.
To your wife, correct?
Correct, yes.
So I would assume that you would have been following his court dates to find out what was going on with the case, correct?
I had no interest in his court date, no.
Oh, okay.
Any information I got,
that-
I got from David Grimm.
Did you see the date on that article?
Yep, I do.
February 29th?
Correct.
And February 29th is so Ms. Stradlack would have obviously had to have confronted you after that article was published, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated to her at that point that you went back for keys, is that correct?
No, not at that time. I indicated to her prior to the funeral when she was over making,
Okay, let me stop.
well, you asked me, I'm answering.
Prior to the funeral is a sufficient answer. I don't have to know when she was making whatever. You said you indicated to her prior to the funeral, is that correct?
That's correct, and that was her testimony.
That's the way you remember her testimony?
That is the way I remember it.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about, you indicated that you wanted your attorneys to bring out that you had put power DTE bills in your name for other tenants. Is that correct?
Repeat the question again.
You indicated that you wanted your attorneys to bring out that you put DTE bills in your name for other tenants. Is that correct?
Yes.
Joe Gentz wasn't your tenant, correct?
No, he was not.
Okay. And Joe Gentz was somebody you barely knew. Is that correct?
At the time, yes.
Okay. At the time you put the power in your name, Joe Gentz was somebody you barely knew, correct?
Correct.
And also at the time you put the power in your name, you knew Joe Gentz had sketchy ability to pay you back, correct?
He had what?
Sketchy ability to pay you back.
No, I didn't believe that. That's incorrect.
Okay. But at any rate, you had never put power in somebody's name that was not a tenant of yours. Is that correct?
Up to that point, yes.
Up to that point, you had not, correct?
Correct.
But there was something about Joe that made you want to put power in your name for him, correct?
Yes.
And what was it?
Trying to help the man out. He was working for me, so I felt I had the ability to withhold payment if he didn't make the payment. So there was a comfort level there that I had that even though I didn't know him that well, he was
How long had he been working for you at the time you put the power in your name?
I think at that point he didn't do a whole lot for me. We maybe one job at my house, working at my house, but the intent and the desire was for him to work on the roof and do a large amount of of work for me, which would have amounted to several $1,000s.
Well, okay, I don't understand this because then basically you paying yourself. If you paying him money to pay back to you, I don't get that. I don't understand that, sir. Explain how that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense that I put the power in my name with the understanding that he would pay the bills. I wasn't paying the bills.
With what?
With money he had. He got $1,000 a month, he told me. His rent's $750, plus he did odd handyman work for other people. He had other jobs. Other small jobs that he did for other people.
Dependable jobs?
I have no idea. He didn't tell me. He didn't get into detail.
But if he didn't tell you the other dependable jobs that he had, why would you put power in your name that could affect your credit on somebody that you really don't know?
Because he was doing work for me, and I felt that if he didn't pay the bills, I could simply deduct what he owed me from the utility bills from what he worked on. In other words, I had it's like almost like a security deposit. All right, I had what I felt was a security deposit with him because I was willing to do that based on the work he was willing to do. I needed the roof work done. It was very important. It was several $1,000s worth of labor that he was allegedly to perform for me.
Okay. How did you know that he could perform roof work?
Because he said he did roof work and tar work in the past.
Okay, so you just went on his word?
I did.
You didn't look into any references or anything?
I did not.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Now, let's talk a little bit about the weekend before Jane's murder. The weekend before Jane's murder, you spend time with Rachel Gillette, is that correct?
Yes.
You go to a BDSM event, is that correct?
Yes.
And she also sends you an email. Rachel Gillette sends you an email concerning your divorce. You recall that?
I don't recall it.
Okay. Can we have what was your email address?
Do you remember?
I had several of them. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall your email address being bigbob552@yahoo.com?
Yes, that was one of them.
And that was one email address that Rachel would have contact with you frequently?
Pardon?
That was one email address that Rachel would have contact with you frequently?
Yes.
And you would have contact with her through that email address, correct?
Yes.
Can I have 62?
Okay, look at this.
Could you go up to the date, time and date portion? Do you recognize that just me am what to be Rachel's email name?
Yes.
Email address?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize the MB being Master Bob and your email address? Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. And it was sent to you Friday, January 20th, 2012
Yes.
at 10:55 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is the weekend before your wife was killed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And going on down to 1, 2, 3, the third paragraph, she indicates to you, so if I am wrong for insisting on seeing the divorce papers before I can believe you, I will apologize once I see them. You had told Rachel you were divorced. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was a lie. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you told her the lie because you wanted to get something from her. Is that correct?
Repeat the question.
You told her the lie because you wanted to get something from her. Is that
To
correct?
get something from
Yes,
her?
to get her
No.
to stay in the relationship with you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you did tell her the lie to get her to stay in a relationship with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You did not, or you could have simply told her, no, I'm not divorced, deal with it, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
You could have simply told her, no, I'm not divorced, deal with it, correct?
I could have said that.
But given the choice between the truth and a lie, you chose to lie, correct?
In that circumstance, yes.
Okay. And you chose to lie to her repeatedly, is that correct?
Yes,
Because you told her you were divorced repeatedly, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And so further on down to the last paragraph, she indicates to you, as I said, if I am wrong and you have told me the truth, I will apologize. I will try to rebuild the trust in you that I don't have. I will do my best to believe believe you no matter what my gut instinct tells me. Then she further on goes on to say, if you have not lied to me about your divorce, then you will be able to say I was wrong for not trusting you. But until I see those papers, you cannot say that to me. You cannot refuse to let me see those papers for myself and expect me to just take your word for it. I cannot do that anymore.
Okay?
She tells you that, is that correct?
She does tell me that, yes.
And that is that she sends you that email because at that point in time, she believes, or you have led her to believe that you're going to be moving in with her, is that correct?
Yes.
And leading her to believe that, you did that once again to keep her in the relationship, correct?
These are her words, not mine, but
My question to you is, did you lead her to believe that you two were going to have a life together to keep her in the relationship, correct?
yes.
Because you did not want to lose her, is that correct?
Yes.
Because you loved her.
I
Is that correct?
cared for her.
Did you love her?
Yes or no?
Yes.
At that time.
Yes.
Now, and over that weekend, you call against, or you make a phone call to Gens's phone twice, is that correct?
I don't recall. I don't have the information in front of me. I made several calls to him. He called me.
Wait, you said you don't recall, we'll wait.
Okay?
Okay, can we have 121? You can just have a moment, Your Honor.
Take your time.
Okay, can I have the phone calls for 121 and on them? Can you see that, Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
There were 2 phone calls for over a minute, is that correct?
Yes. According to that, yes.
Okay. Do you recall speaking with Mr. Gens?
I don't recall whether I spoke to him or left a voicemail message.
Okay. And what would your voicemail messages have been about?
Don't come to my house, that I'll get you the money that I owe you. I'm not paying you the whole amount I owe you because I'm withholding money for the utilities, and that I will pay you first of the week.
Okay. And you didn't put any of this in any type of writing, did you?
Pardon me?
You didn't put any of this in your agreement with him in any type of writing, did you?
Put any of what? Any of this, you're saying?
Arrangements, anything. How he was going to pay you.
In regards to the utilities? You're talking about in regards to the utilities? I'm just asking you to be more specific.
Any of the arrangements you had with him, was any of it in writing?
No, none of it was.
Let's take a 10-minute recess. Sit down, Mr. Bashir. Let's take a recess. 10-minute
Okay.
recess. Make it 15.
Okay.
That was my first Notre Dame game.
nosy. Come on, let's do it.
Attorney on Pitts. This is case number 154943. People versus Deidre Pitts. Ms. Pitts is here today for sentencing. Appears for the record.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. John Donaldson on behalf of
Where's
the
the
people.
victim?
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good to be up.
She was.
I apologize for my time on this, Judge.
Where's the victim?
Your Honor, she stated that she could not stay. She said she's fine not being here. She left me a copy of her hospital bills for the restitution amount.
Okay, very good. How much are they?
The total amount that she owes out of pocket is $935.26.
When I've reviewed that with counsel, Judge, we have no objection.
Okay, very good. Anything you want to say on your behalf? Yes.
I'm just sorry that I have to appear before you for such nonsense, and I promise you that you'll never see my face in this situation again.
Right. I hope so, young lady. The court is going to place you on 2 years probation. The court is going to require you, you're going to have to pay that restitution amount. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And the court is also going to require you to pay supervision of court costs. You have 42 days to come my decision. Unfortunately, one of you appointed to that close to that.
Thank you, Judge.
Correct. I said Lisa Stoss here.
Have a seat down there.
Thank you, Judge.
Yeah, one here, go.
plants up too?
Yeah, well, everything.
Oh, you, oh, okay.
That's why I said I wasn't sure.
Listen, man,
Oh, I
nothing.
have some nail papers. I got just did
And you
that.
threw them away?
No, no. Those are super nail papers I have. You know why I do something?
Why?
Because I couldn't see it.
Oh, okay. So when you started tearing them down, you oh, okay. Yeah, let her sign her papers. What did I do? Her probation papers. She gotta go to probation. Had a misdemeanor charge. Yeah. Oh, did she have a bond? She was a bond?
No, that
You posted a bond?
I'm not eating frost. You're not long up on my stories when Bob Redding hired me.
much more do you have to go, Miss Lindsay? Just a little bit?
I'm moving fast. I'm gonna move fast now, and if the court would just, if he would answer directly, we can get through it much quicker.
We're not gonna get, I'm just saying, how much more you got, about 15 more minutes? Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna be.
Silence is an admission and a law, so we gotta be
That is
careful
right.
about that one. But this one would be a denial. Let's bring him out, let's finish up. So, Mr., if we have to come back again, obviously, the court is not available next week. So we're gonna have to figure out some dates. All right, Mr. Bashara, you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Take the stand again, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, I'll take that article with you. Let's go back on. Ready?
Yes.
Go ahead.
On January 21st, there were 3 contacts between your phone and Mr. Gens's phone. Is that correct? Per the records.
Correct.
And 2 were outgoing, meaning you called.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that correct?
Repeat the question?
2 outgoing calls from your phone
Yes.
and 1 incoming.
That is correct.
So you called Gens, you initiated more calls than Gens did to you on this day. Is that correct?
On that day, yes, I did.
Okay. And there are 2 calls for over a minute. Is that correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing in that contact that asked you to get special attention on your house, correct?
Pardon me?
There was nothing in those phone contacts that caused you to call the police to get special contact for your house, correct?
That's correct.
You weren't afraid against on that day, on the 21st, is that correct?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. On the 22nd, there are 4 contacts between your phone and Gens's phone, is that correct?
Yes,
You initiated all those calls, is that correct?
I did.
And there is at least 1 call for 2 minutes and 12 seconds, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that call was made at roughly 9 in the morning, is that correct?
Yes,
You called 3 more times to his phone that day, is that correct?
yes,
1 in the 1300 hour, 1 in the 1700 hour, and 1 in the 1900 hour, is that correct?
yes.
Gens never called you back on those times, is that correct?
He did not.
And there was nothing about any of that that caused you to call for special attention on your house, correct?
No, there wasn't.
Nothing about that caused you to be in fear for your life or your family's life, is that correct?
You're talking a little fast. Could you?
Counsel, okay, what?
I couldn't understand what she was saying. She was talking so fast.
Okay, dear, would you slow down, just take your time.
Yes, Judge.
My hearing's not the best either, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
So there was nothing on the 22nd that caused you to be in fear of your life or your family's life, is that correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. And also, during that weekend before the murder, you went paint shopping.
Surely we're not gonna need those, right? Banker boxes.
No, just something in case I need it, Judge. We might not need it, but better
Okay,
safe
go
than
ahead.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. During that weekend, you went with Rachel Gillette to a paint store, is that correct?
To where?
To a paint store, is that correct?
I think I did, yes.
Okay, and that was for purposes of picking out paint for the new house, is that correct?
No, it was picking out paint for Kaju,
Okay.
if I'm correct in my remembering.
Okay, so when Rachel testified that you were going to pick out paint on that day for the new home, she would have been incorrect?
I don't know what I don't know what was going on in her mind. I thought we were doing it for the Kaju house.
Okay, but certainly in Rachel's mind, based on what you had told her, that you were going to be making a home purchase on the 27th, is that correct?
That I was going to what?
That you were making a home purchase on the 27th, that's what you had led Rachel to believe, correct?
No.
You said you never led Rachel to believe that you guys were buying the house on Kensington?
I put an offer in on the house on Kensington, correct.
My question to you is, did you ever lead Rachel to believe that you were buying that house and you and her were going to live in that house? Did you lead Rachel to believe that?
Yes.
Okay, and that was a lie, correct?
Yes.
And that was for the purpose of keeping Rachel in the relationship with you, correct?
No, not necessarily.
But then why'd you lie to her?
Because I wanted to look at houses to get pricing on houses. That's the reason she was with me doing
Well,
that.
why'd you lie to her?
The question,
Because I didn't want.
You didn't want her to leave you, did you?
Yes.
All right.
because it was important to you to keep her with you, is that correct?
Yes.
She was an important aspect of your life, correct?
Yes or no?
Yes, she was important, yes.
And her meaning to you went more beyond just her being in the BDSM lifestyle with you, correct?
No.
Now, you went to church on the 22nd, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know a Mr. McQueen?
Yes, I do.
And he's a member of your church, correct?
He is?
And as far as you know, he had no grudge against you, is that correct?
No, I do not know that.
I'm saying as far as you know, you didn't know of any grudge between you.
That's correct.
Okay. And you and Jane had an argument that day at church, is that correct?
No.
You heard Mr. McQueen testify that he heard you and Jane in the argument that day, is that correct?
I heard his testimony.
Counsel, I know you're not asking
No,
a comment. Oh, go ahead.
Now let's talk about the 23rd, the day before Jane was murdered.
Okay.
Counsel, can we talk about the new trial?
Yes, but Your Honor, as it relates to that, he said in his affidavit he didn't have anything to do with it. I think this is fair ground based on what he said in his affidavit to show the incredibility of what he said.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, do you think maybe the jury found that?
Yes, but I
But you
said
just want to go over some other things,
very
right?
quickly, Judge.
You sure?
Yeah, very quickly.
Okay. Go ahead.
On the 23rd, the day before the
Don't talk so fast. He said he can't understand you.
Okay, Judge, I'm trying to keep you happy because I don't want to.
But don't try to please me.
Okay.
All right, good. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. On the 23rd, Mr. Gintz was the first call you made in the morning from your cell phone. Is that correct?
I don't know that. I don't know if that was the first call, but it was.
Heard the phone
Heard
records.
the phone records.
Take a look. You got your records, sir.
Right, but these are all calls to Joe Gentz. They're
Are
not.
those your phone records?
No, they're not. They are my records. They're my records from Bashara to Gentz, to and from Gentz. They are not all my phone
Okay,
records.
well, let me put it to you this way. Do you have reason to dispute that would have been the first call you made in the morning?
No.
Just say it maybe not the first, but it was an early call.
Yeah, it was an early call. I agree with that.
Record shows
Or what time was it?
at
7:37, and I agree that was an early call. Yes.
Oh, it's going on. 7:37 a.m.
Okay, and that night you called him at 11:06 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes. It says right here. Yes.
And what day was that?
On the 23rd.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Okay, and there were more than 20 calls between you two. Is that correct on that day?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Gintz never called you back on that day. Is that correct?
No, he did not.
Okay. And there are at least 3 conversations that are over a minute. Is that correct?
No, there are 3 calls that are over a minute. I wouldn't say there's 3 conversations.
Sir, I said,
What's the difference?
The difference is I could have been leaving a voicemail message that I don't know that we connected. In fact, the reason we didn't connect, Your Honor, is because of the volume of calls I made. I'm trying to reach the man to tell him, don't come over, don't bother me, leave me alone.
Okay, go ahead.
But, okay, you said, don't bother you. He didn't bother you on the 22nd. Is that correct? You called him 4 times on the 22nd. He didn't bother you. Is that correct?
No, he didn't bother me. This is prior to that.
So he didn't bother you. Called him on the 21st, you indicated, and you said you called him on the 21st to tell him don't bother you, correct?
Right.
There was one phone call between you on the 21st, correct? One phone call that he called you back, correct?
Yes. Incoming call, yes.
Okay, on the 22nd, okay, so between the 21st and the 22nd, he had not made any additional contact with you, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so on the 22nd, you call him 4 more times to say, don't bother me, is that correct?
That's correct.
And he didn't bother you on the 22nd, is that correct?
That's correct.
So on the 23rd, after him not bothering you, you call him in excess of 20 times to say, don't bother me on the 23rd.
Because we never connected.
But did you leave messages?
I don't recall.
Okay.
And so each of these contacts on the 23rd were to say, don't call me?
Yes.
Okay.
to leave me alone, yes.
Okay, so there's a call at 12.
I would say that,
Sir, wait, I don't have a question on the floor for you right now. Would you wait and listen to the question?
you did have a question.
Sir?
Don't argue with her.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, looking on the 23rd.
Yes.
The call at 12:27. There's, the call duration is 1 minute, is that correct?
That's correct.
There's a call at 14:40. There's a call duration of 1 minute and 42 seconds, is that correct?
That's correct.
At 18:28, there's a call duration of 4 minutes and 40 seconds, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, he did not bother you at all on the 23rd, is that correct?
That's correct. He did not call me.
Okay. He didn't come to your house that you know of, is that correct?
That I know of, no.
Okay. And if you are so worried that you have to call him on the 21st, 22nd, and the 23rd because you're afraid that he's going to bother you, you didn't call the police, correct?
That's correct.
You didn't walk into the station, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't ask for special attention on your house, is that correct?
Right.
Now, on the 24th, the morning of the 24th, after 3 days of him not contacting him, you call him again at 6:24 in the a.m., is that correct?
That's correct.
But once again, what, to tell him, don't bother me?
Well, that was my intent, yes.
Oh, okay. And then you call him.
There was a...
Wait.
You gotta wait now, Mr.
No, I know,
Bashara.
but I want to answer that question more fully.
No.
May I be allowed to answer that more fully?
Okay,
Judge, he can do it on redirect.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
that's fine.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
At 6:57, you call again, correct?
Yes?
6:36, you call again, correct?
No, he calls me.
Okay, he calls you. Okay? Then at, you have an outgoing call again at 10:20. You have an outgoing call to him at 10:22, correct?
Yes?
You have an incoming call from him at 13:07, correct?
Yes.
And you have an outgoing call, two outgoing calls for him, to him at 1,300 and 1,400 hours. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then on January 25th, there's a call from Mr. Getz to you with the duration of 1 minute and 10 seconds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And on the 23rd, all the calls were initiated by you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And on the 24th, the day your wife was brutally murdered, you initiated more calls to Gentz than Gentz initiated to you. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
On the day your wife was brutally murdered, you initiated more phone calls to Gentz than Gentz initiated to you.
Yes.
And then on the day after your wife was murdered, Gentz initiated a phone call to you. Is that correct?
That's what these records show, yes.
Now, on the 24th, you indicated that you were there on the Mack Avenue property to clean. Is that correct?
I was there for several reasons, but
One
yes,
of
to
them-
clean.
Okay.
Yes.
And as it relates to the lease you had with your commercial tenants, it was their responsibility to clean the alley. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Not the alley, the behind the building. That's correct.
Okay. Now, you had led Rachel to believe that you guys were going to be living in the Kensington house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you led her to believe that to the extent that she actually went to DTE and applied to get power turned on at that residence. Is that correct?
Repeat the question?
You led her to believe that you were going to be living there with her at the Kensington address to the extent that she went and applied to get DTE power turned on
Do
at
you
that
know?
house.
That was her, I do not know. That was her own doing. I have no reason why she did that.
Okay.
Okay.
Especially since the power was already on.
Okay, very good.
You don't recall having a conversation with her about having the power turned on at Kensington?
Absolutely not.
But I'm assuming she was excited about the
Counsel,
process.
that calls for speculation. He didn't know.
Okay. And at this point in time, the only connection that Joe Gentz has to Jane is through you. Is that correct?
Only connection she has?
The only connection that Joe Gentz has to Jane is through you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, also, when you went to Oregon in the
I did.
to visit Janet Lehman, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you called Gents while you were in Oregon, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was once again for the purpose of telling Gents to leave you alone?
No.
What were you calling them about?
To tell him, actually, I think he called me and then I called him back because he wanted money, and I said, you didn't do the job I asked you to do. And I'm only paying you $400, not the $850 that I owed him.
Okay.
Okay, and you owed him the $850 for what?
Miscellaneous work he had done at several places.
And what was that?
What was what?
What was the miscellaneous work?
Well, he worked several times, 3 times in my backyard. He did some work on the old photographic studio on Mac, and I think that was the extent of it. I don't think he worked anywhere else. He didn't do the roof work, which is the main thing. That's exactly why I wanted him to do all this work.
And aside from you, there is no other witness that witnessed him and you together, correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, but I'm not talking about Rebecca Fortin when you. I'm not talking about Rebecca Fortin when you rented the apartment. At these locations where the work was being done, was there anybody that can verify that Gents was there doing the work?
Yes.
And have you given that name of that person to anybody outside of today right now?
No, well, I didn't give it to her. She testified.
Who?
Missy Keller said that she saw Joe Gens and I up on the roof on Mack Avenue.
Oh, she did?
She did.
Okay. And aside from that,
With Jack Tocco, who saw me in the backyard with
I
him.
know Jack Tocco didn't testify in here.
okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. But so he's a dead man, so he can't come in and verify that at this point, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, these occasions when you claim you did work with Gents, how did you meet up together?
Which occasion?
Occasions.
Twice, I think he walked to my house, and several times I picked him up.
Okay. But you only said he only came to your house once in that video.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay. Okay.
No.
Now,
He said it. Go ahead.
That's
All right.
okay.
Go ahead.
Now, after Jane was murdered, strike that. Before Jane's body was even found, you started using other people's phones to contact people. Is that correct?
I don't recall the actual time frame. I did. My phone was.
Did you or didn't you?
Did I or didn't I what?
Did you call Rachel Gillette in the early morning hours before Jane's body was found using your mother's cell phone?
I may have, yes.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, did you text Janet Lehman from your mother's cell phone, family emergency, cease communication, before Jane's body was found?
I don't recall that.
But you may have.
I may have, yes.
Okay. And as a matter of fact, did you use Bob Fix, your ponytail Bob, did you use his phone to start contacting Rachel after Jane was murdered?
I think once or twice I may have, yes.
Did you use Mr. Lee, Rafe Lee's phone to contact Rachel after your wife was murdered?
I may have, yes.
Okay. Did you use your Aunt Gwen's phone to contact Janet Lehman in Oregon
Yes.
after your wife's murder?
Yes.
Did you use Stephanie Samuel, your cousin's cell phone, to contact Rachel and Janet Lehman after your wife's murder?
Yes.
Did you use, there's a business in Grosse Pointe called the Little Blue Book, is that correct?
Yes.
And Kim Tower, who is a friend of yours, owns that building, is that business, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you likewise go to her business and use her phone to contact Janet Lehman from her phone?
Yes.
And did you have Rick Falcinelli contact Rachel Gillette during the week when your wife was being buried to tell her that you still cared for her?
I didn't hear the last part of that.
Did you have your friend Rich Falcinelli contact Rachel Gillette during the time of your wife's, when you're planning her wife's funeral that week after she died? Did you have him contact Rachel Gillette to tell her you still cared about her?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Now, you started using other people's phones because you did not want their phone numbers to be linked up on your cell phone. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Courtney Johns,
Yes?
She was a tenant of yours, is that correct?
No.
Courtney Johns was not a tenant of yours?
She was a tenant of Rachel Gillette's.
Okay, okay. But at any rate, she contacted you on 125 or 126, correct?
I don't recall, but okay, if you say so.
Okay. Did you indicate to her to tell the police that you and Rachel were just friends?
I don't recall that. If I had said that to her, it would have certainly been true
Okay.
that we were friends.
But you
Friends with benefits?
No, she said,
just say you loved her?
You had a sexual relationship with her, didn't you?
yes, I did.
Wait, hold on.
Okay, yes, Judge.
Go ahead.
So, if this was a friend, there were things that this friendship that she provided to you
I think,
that were intimate in a nature. Is that correct?
yes. Courtney Johns asked me, if the police contact you, what would you want me to say? I said, well, tell her we're friends.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Okay, so it was Courtney Johns' prompting that said, tell her we're friends.
As I recall, yes.
Okay.
So you didn't just volunteer that information yourself. It was a response of her question to you.
That's correct. She asked me, are the police going to be coming and talking to me? And I said, if they are, fully cooperate, as I told everyone to do.
And tell her that we're just friends.
Friends.
She asked me, what do you want me to say about Rachel? Well, she's your landlord, I said, and we're friends.
Well, why didn't you say tell her the truth? Tell him the truth.
Because I did tell her to tell the truth.
Okay, thank you. Now, did you tell your son that you paid Joe, that you gave Joe the check before Jane was murdered, but he only cashed it afterwards?
No, I did not tell him that.
You did not tell your son that?
No.
Did you tell Mr. Falcinelli, who was your friend, that you gave Joe the check in a face-to-face encounter?
No, I did not tell him that.
How many times did Joe contact you after the murder?
I didn't hear that. How many times?
How many times did Joe contact you after the murder?
Did Joe contact me?
Yes.
I don't recall.
Do you recall indicating it was only one time?
No. I don't.
333K, please.
Turn around.
After Jane went missing, after her body was found,
Yes.
did Joe ever contact you?
One time, he called me and said, "I need money. I can't operate without this. I'm having this thing on the 31st," and asked me for more money, and I hung up on him. I did not call him back. I did not communicate with him after that. And then like I say, that's when, I knew that he was aggravated, he was agitated, and I was glad that I filed that report saying that he may be a person of interest.
Okay. There's a call from Joe to you on the 25th. Okay?
Yes.
You already indicated that you did not make the report to the police until after you became a person of interest, which was on the 27th. Is that correct?
No, I didn't make it on the 27th. I made it after that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So, he contacted you before the 27th, correct? So that's on the 25th, correct?
Yes.
So then he contacted you more than one time because you said the reason why you wrote the letters, he contacted you on the, can I see the letter? The letter is dated January 29th, is that correct?
I don't have it in front of me, but I recall that to be true. Yes, there it is. Yes, that's correct.
And you indicate in the letter yesterday, which would have been the 28th, correct?
Correct.
So that meant at that point that Joe had contacted you more than once after Jane's body was found, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's not what the interviewer asked me.
Okay.
Did you talk to Joe Gentz after your wife's death? And I said, yes, one time on the 28th. He called me multiple times.
Mr. Bashara,
Yes.
there's no question before you. Go ahead.
Well, okay, I wanted to clarify that, Your Honor.
Very good. Thank you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about how many jobs jobs did Joe do for you?
How many what?
Jobs that Joe do for you total?
For me,
Yes. Or at your behest?
as I recall, he came over to my house.
Give me a total number.
Total number, I would say,
Pick it up in your head first, and then give me a total number.
I would say 5.
5. Okay. Could you pull the book of transcripts? And go to the date of June 19th, 2012, page 12.
June 19th.
Yeah.
You follow along, Mr. Ambrose?
Trying to. I am. Thank you.
June 19th, I'm there. What page?
Page 12.
Okay. Yep,
And you're talking to Mr. Tabato?
yes,
And you tell him that you gave him 2 jobs, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Now, I'm finished with that page right now. We'll go to something else. Let me put that down.
Okay,
Now, did you consider Joe to be a part-time worker?
no,
Okay. In the letter, could you put that up? We'll strike that. Before we get to that, you approved the letter that Mr. Broussard gave to the police, is that correct?
he wrote it after we had a conversation.
Did you approve it or not, sir? That's all I'm asking.
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, at any rate, can we have the letter up? Paragraph 3, you just said Joe's not a part-time worker. In the letter, it says he's a part-time worker. Is that correct?
Those are Mr. Brewstar's words, not mine.
Okay. So once again, your attorney did something that you didn't authorize. Or it's your attorney's fault.
He was not a full-time worker. He was not, I didn't,
Thank you.
okay?
Now, I'm curious. When you hired Mr. Broussard to be your attorney, you realized at that point that Chief Hiller had the grudge against you, is that correct?
Yes,
And you knew that Don Olson was also investigating the case, is that correct?
I didn't know his role in the investigation. He interviewed me twice.
Okay, thank you. But you had the letter addressed to Chief Hiller, the man who has the grudge against you, right?
Mr. Brewstar addressed it, yes.
Okay, so when Mr. Broussard showed you the letter, did you say, don't address it to Chief Hiller, he has a grudge against me, we might do better sending it to Detroit? You didn't say that, did you?
I did not.
Now, in the letter, you never mentioned that there was phone contact, and when I say contact, I'm talking about phone number to phone number between you and Mr. Guest on the 25th, is that correct?
I'd have to see it.
Put the letter back.
I'd have to see the letter. I don't recall the whole letter. So your question was,
In the letter, it doesn't mention the phone contact on the 25th, is that correct?
I can't read that. Can you make it bigger, please?
You can make it bigger.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, it doesn't mention that you used your mother's phone to call Joe Gentz on the 26th. Is that correct?
I don't have the records. I don't recall.
The call's not mentioned in the Blue Star letter. I think it's 140.
I mean, I may have. I don't recall.
Could you make? Okay. Certainly, your mother didn't know Joe Gentz, correct?
No,
Your mother would have no reason to be calling Joe Gentz. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Do you recognize your mother's phone number on there? Try row number 2.
No, I don't recognize my mother's phone. Oh, the one number, yes, 410. Yes, that's her number.
Okay, and that number called Joseph Gentz on 126 the day after your wife was brutally murdered. Is that correct? And the call duration is 1 minute and 22 seconds. Is that correct?
2 days after, yes.
Okay, so the call duration is 1 minute and 22 seconds.
That's correct.
You spoke to Joe Gentz on that day,
I don't recall if I spoke to him or if I left him a voicemail message.
and that was telling him to go get the check at St. Vincent de Paul, correct?
More than likely it was.
Okay. So you didn't mention that phone call and the payment of Gentz in that letter, is that correct?
No, not that I recall, no.
Okay. There's repeated phone contact on the 22nd, is that correct?
Yes.
You don't mention that in that letter, is that correct?
Pardon?
That's not mentioned in the letter, correct?
Talks about threats, yes. Talks about veiled threats and
Sir, listen. Listen to the question.
okay.
The phone contacts, specifically the date and the time, is not mentioned in that letter, is that correct?
That's correct.
Also, interestingly enough, you don't give the police how you met Joe Gentz in that letter, do you?
In that letter, no.
You don't tell him that Gentz was introduced to you by Steve Tabata.
I don't recall saying that in the letter. I told them on the.
Sir, I'm only asking right now. Keep focused. I don't want you to get confused.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Focus on the letter of the letter that Mr. Brewstar wrote on your behalf.
Yes.
In the letter that Mr. Brewstar wrote on your behalf, he did not indicate to the police that Mr. Gentz was introduced to you by Mr. Tabata, correct?
Correct.
In this letter, you never mentioned to the police that Gentz had been to Middlesex, correct?
Your Honor, may I have a copy of the letter so I can read it in front of me?
Can you hear the guy?
Because she's asking me to keep referring.
Wait a minute. Turn up. There's a letter.
Okay, put it.
Well, it's not up. Oh,
You
okay.
can't see it.
Well, I can see it, but do you have a hard copy?
I don't have a hard copy of it, Your Honor.
All right. So, I mean, she's referring to the letter, and I want to get it right.
Sir.
It's been a long time since I've read that.
Well, put your glasses on and read it out.
Well, I can see better without the glasses. From this, these are for close up.
Okay, so what do you need me to do?
I don't need you to do a thing, Your Honor.
Well, thank you, sir. You just read that letter to yourself.
Go ahead.
He's ready.
Never mentioned that Gentz had been to Middlesex, correct?
No, not in that letter.
Never mentioned, okay, sir, we're talking about the letter.
Right.
Okay. Never mentioned that Gentz had met Jane, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the veiled threats. What exactly are the veiled threats? Because you indicated previously that you weren't scared of them.
Right.
Correct? You weren't, he didn't indicate he was going to harm your family or you, correct?
That's correct.
The only thing you said he was saying is, I need more money to help me out because I have this child custody thing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What was threatening about that?
I don't know. Those weren't my words. Those were Mr. Brewstar's words, veiled threats.
Okay. But Mr. Brewstar was going on what you told him. Is that correct? Or
No.
you saying Mr. Brewstar just made that up?
I'm saying he drew a conclusion based on the previous part of that letter that says we had multiple conversations or calls,
And he drew the,
veiled threats.
he made the jump that because Gentz was asking for money for jobs, that these were veiled threats.
Yes.
Okay. Did you do anything to disabuse him of that notion?
You know,
Did you?
No, I
Thank
didn't.
you.
No,
Thank
I
you.
didn't.
Thank you. You answered the question. And you indicated that the work was payment for painting and cleanup work on Mac. Is that correct?
That's correct.
concerned that you wanted Mr. Gentz to be able to pay you the money for the DTE bill, correct?
That's correct.
You wanted to help Gentz out because you knew he needed work, is that correct?
At what point in time? You're talking about
From
when I
the
first...
time you met him, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So during that same point in time, like from October, November, and December, if you had work, you would have given it to him, is that correct?
Certain things based on what he said his skills were.
Painting?
He didn't do any painting for me. He did some drywall, scraping and drywall work on the photographic studio and helped me remove some things from the basement.
Okay, and certainly, you're saying you didn't ask him, could he paint?
To paint, no.
You said, I'm asking, you didn't ask him, could he paint?
I don't recall specifically. He volunteered that he had done roof work.
Did you ask him?
No, I didn't.
Okay. But during the same period of time when you indicate that you want to help this downtrodden Joe, you were giving Rachel money and putting on your checks, it was for painting, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
On certain checks, not on every check, no.
Okay. Let's just talk about the time period that coincided with the time period when Joe needed work to pay the DTE, okay?
Okay?
He certainly would have needed money to pay the DTE bill.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
He certainly would have needed money to pay the DTE bill after you signed up in your name, correct?
That's correct.
In October 31st, do you give Rachel $350 for painting at 15406?
Well, hang on one second. I have the records here.
Okay,
Allow me to refer to them.
please.
Take your time.
Go ahead.
Okay, do you pay Rachel $350 on October 31st for painting?
October 31st. Yes, I do.
Okay, and that BJR management account, is that an account you share with your wife?
No.
Is B&B an account you share with your wife?
No.
These are your business accounts.
That's correct.
And
She is... go ahead. No, I answered your question. You're right.
on 11/28, do you give Rachel $300 more for painting?
That's correct.
Same period of time when Joe needed money?
That's correct.
Same period of time when Joe was owing you for DTE?
That's correct. Well, no, hang on. No, it's not. I hadn't gotten the bill. We didn't get the first bill until the end of November.
Okay, but you knew he had to have money to pay the bill, correct?
Well, I assumed he had money. He was getting $1,000 a month, plus he said he had other odd jobs.
Okay, but at any rate...
I can't testify to his...
And on 11/28, you paid
Yep.
Rachel $300.
I did, yep,
On 12/06, you paid Rachel $310.
yes,
And on 12/29, you paid Rachel $400
correct.
for work and painting.
Pardon me?
For work and painting.
That's correct.
And certainly at that point in time, the bill had come in, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, when you talked on Friday, you talked about there was some disagreement between you and your wife about you putting the power in your name for Joe, is that correct?
No, there was not a disagreement. She was upset that I put the power in my name. She
Okay.
wasn't happy about that
Right.
because there was a past due bill.
And she saw the bill when it came to your home, is that correct?
She saw the late notice.
When it came to your home, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Sir, isn't it true that that DTE bill wasn't even addressed to your home?
I'm sorry, could you please?
Isn't it true that that DTE bill was not even addressed to your home?
Yes, it was. I had duplicate bills, one sent to my house and one sent to Joe's house.
Oh, sent to Joe's house?
To the Wayburn address, correct.
Okay. Can we pull up the DTE bill? What address is on that DTE bill, sir?
Pardon me?
What address is on that DTE bill.
On the Jefferson address.
Okay, and that's another one of your commercial properties, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it did not go to Joe's house, is that correct? You have the bill going to your commercial property.
This bill came to me. Another bill came to Joe.
And, okay, so then where did the bill come to your house?
There was no bill that came to when I said came to my house, I meant came to me. I brought it to my house, and that's where Jane saw it.
And you showed it to Jane?
I did not show it to her. She saw it on my desk.
Okay, but at any rate, that, for Joe to have gotten that bill, you had to have given it to him, correct?
This bill here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So when is it that you had the face-to-face with Joe when you gave him that bill?
I didn't. He got a duplicate bill sent to his house. That's what I'm telling you. Edison.
Stop.
Hold on. Go
You
ahead.
just said he got that bill because you gave it to him. You just said that a minute ago. Those words just came out of
Okay.
your mouth.
Well, then that's
Did
not.
you say that?
No, I don't recall saying that.
Playback. Madam, did he say that?
What?
That he gave the bill to Joe Gans.
I got to check.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
I don't recall saying that.
Can you check?
And I have to go to my transcriber. Was it just now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go check.
5 minutes. Step down.
That's right.
Don't forget about my friend. Harold Cobb. I'm the one you say was like zero. Non-capital, he ain't in the capitalist.
Give me his name if you
Oh, yeah.
About that guy, John.
You want me just to put his P number? You want me to write it down?
I made a mistake and took yours. They came out with my instructions. So 3 hole punches. Is that okay?
We're just going to find it. No, I need a copy of it.
Find out how many. Because I did them, but I want to make sure that I didn't mislead.
He's here. Yeah. We can come if you I guess it's still was still there and off the town. So we said, no. Yeah. Did you gotta stay on the radio? All right, I'll hear my
Before you go,
What? Take those upstairs? Put your P number on here correctly, right?
Nobody ain't answering up there. I could physically go up and find out. There's nobody's answering.
Oh, thank you. I never come back there anyway.
I know. So now they appealed that, so they mad about that. The newspapers and those.
I know.
Oh, I just saw them. I know they said they were gonna appeal. Find out how many, because I don't know how long. No, because it said he argued that he was not an employee, not a public official. So out of 3, they dismissed 2. Yeah, find out.
be what? You want me to follow?
Can we see if Miss Knapp's not?
It's 12.
Okay, good.
Judge, we can forego that point.
Yeah, tell her, come on.
And if she finds it later, we'll.
That's fine.
I'd be happy to address that if you'd like, Your Honor.
1 second. Let me just get on the record. I don't have a record keeper.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Excuse me.
That's fine. Can attorneys approach? You said December 7th.
Sorry about that.
I said December 7th.
Your Honor, may I speak to my attorney?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You're still under oath, Mr. Bashara.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, excuse me.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I caught myself. I
All
caught
right,
myself.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes.
Ready?
Did you go midway in the middle of the page where it says question? And she saw the bill when it came to your home, is that correct? Your answer, she saw the late notice. Question, when it came to your home, is that correct? Answer, yes. Those were your answers under oath a moment ago?
That's correct.
Okay.
But I was mistaken.
Let's
Okay.
go through all of it.
All right.
Okay, so just answer my question, sir. Sir, isn't it true that the DTE bill wasn't even addressed to your home? I'm sorry, could you please? Question, isn't it true that the DTE bill was not even addressed to your home? Answer, yes it was. I had duplicate bills, one sent to my house and one sent to Joe's house. You said that, is that correct?
Yeah, I did say that.
Okay. Now further on down, go to the next page. Okay, so for Joe to have gotten that bill, you had to have given it to him, correct? Answer, this bill here, question, yes. Answer, yes. You did say that, correct?
Well, let me look at it.
Okay.
Take your time, sir.
Okay, that's not correct, though.
Okay, but you said it under oath, correct?
I made a mistake.
Okay. Now, can we have the bill that the envelope that you put the check in for Joe?
The picture.
Yeah. Could you zoom in on it? Could you read what you said you paid Joe for?
Payment for painting, cleanup, and work. MAC.
Okay, but a little while ago you said you never even had him do painting. Is that correct?
I considered drywall a part of painting.
But
I did say that he did not paint. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
But earlier you said you made a distinction between drywall and painting.
Didn't you? Didn't you say it was a difference between drywall and paint?
Absolutely.
But now the envelope indicates that you wrote what?
It was just a general note that
What does it say?
he did cleanup work, painting, and miscellaneous work. Yes.
Paint for painting. Payment for painting. Okay.
All right. Well.
Now let's move on to certain things you said to Rachel about your financial situation.
About what?
Your financial situation.
Okay.
You had discussed your finances with Rachel, is that correct?
On several occasions, I did. Yes.
Okay. And you indicated to her that your wife was a substantial contributor to the household income, is that correct?
I may have. I don't recall the specific words, but I may have. Yes.
And did you indicate to her in your discussions about your life with Rachel that it would change because of the finances, is that correct?
I did say that.
Okay. And did you indicate to her, 29, please. Zoom in on it. Did you indicate to her you would rather be poor and happy than rich and not so? Did you tell her that?
I don't recall, but I'm reading, so let me read. I may have said that.
Read the whole thing and then we'll ask you some questions.
Right, read it to yourself, and then we'll be able to, so Ms. Lindsay can ask you questions.
Yes. I've read it.
Okay, you indicated to her you'd rather be poor and happy than rich and not so. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. And you told Rachel that you were not happy with your life. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was a lie. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you told her that to keep her in the relationship. Is that correct?
I told her what?
You told her that to keep her in the relationship, correct?
Yes.
Now, you didn't have to tell her anything about your wife, period, correct?
No, that's not correct.
You had to disparage your wife to Rachel then, correct?
I didn't disparage her.
Okay.
No, that's not correct.
But at any rate, you indicated you were not happy with Jane, is that correct?
To Rachel, yes.
Okay. You could have just simply said things weren't working out, right?
I did say that.
Okay. But you also specifically said you weren't happy, correct?
I don't recall specifically saying that. I may have made reference to that, yes.
Okay. And once again, given the choice between the truth and the lie, you chose a lie, correct?
That's correct.
Now, you also indicated that finally, as to the income I will be missing, oh well, you said that, correct?
I may have.
Did you read it in the email that we just had up?
Take a look at the email.
I read that email, but I don't recall seeing.
Finally,
Oh, well, yes, I did. There it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Finally,
Right.
as to the income I will be missing, and the income you will be missing would have come from your wife, correct?
Yes.
Because not having your wife's income would have substantially impacted on your style of life, correct?
Not necessarily, no.
But you said it in that email, correct?
I made reference to a number of
You said
things.
it in that email, correct? We're only talking about
Answer
the
the
email.
question, Mr. Bashara. Did you say an email? Yes or no?
Repeat the question.
The question is, did you say in the email, or did you imply in the email that your style of life would be impacted by not having James?
I made that implication, yes.
Okay. And that implication was a truth or a lie? Which was it?
Pardon me?
That implication was the truth or a lie? Which was it?
It was a lie.
Okay. And once again,
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was the truth.
it was the truth.
Yeah.
The truth is that Jane's finances, without them, your lifestyle would be substantially impacted, correct?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's what I implied, but that's not the truth.
Okay. So once again, given the choice between telling the truth and a lie, you chose to tell a lie, correct?
I didn't tell the full truth.
Well, what is the lie? If
Be-
it's not a
because
full truth?
because we're talking about Jane's income, but I had other sources of income.
What is the difference to you between a full truth and a lie?
There's a big difference.
Like what?
When you tell someone a partial truth, it may not be the whole truth, but it may not be necessarily a lie.
Okay, well,
I would miss. Let me tell you, Your Honor, I would miss.
Wait, hold on.
I would miss Jane's income. Absolutely. Would it have affected my life? No.
But that's not the question I asked you.
What was
I
the
said,
question?
What was the difference between a lie and a half-truth? You're omitting things that are significant. So what's the difference?
Because you may be omitting things, but those aren't necessarily untrue.
Okay.
Go ahead, that's fine.
Okay. The things you omit are for the purpose of deception. Is that correct? Or the purpose of misleading? Is that correct?
For the purpose of misleading, yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay. And it was your intent to mislead her, correct?
Not all the time, no.
Most of the time.
In this email.
In this situation, wasn't it?
In this situation,
Okay. And you indicated that your mother is generous and your mother would help you out in income situations. Is that correct?
if I needed it, yes. And yes, she is generous.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
wait, just hold on for a minute. You indicated that you were not in a relationship with Rachel, but yet you're making all of these statements about being together, and you wanted to mislead her in order for her to stay with you. Why?
I'll tell you, there's two reasons. One, because it's very hard to find in the lifestyle a submit.
slave?
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly correct.
And what's the second one?
That we did get along well, and sometimes, you know, the person that you were with in that scenario, you can't necessarily go out and replace them. I was actively looking and talking to other women at the same time.
So you just figured that you would just tell Rachel lies just till you got you a new slave.
Well, it wasn't like I told her lies all the time. A lot of it was a fantasy, Your Honor.
Oh, you told her a fantasy. Okay.
We both told each other fantasies. If you read her writings are very fantifical.
Okay. Madam?
Okay, yes. And you say you're laying out the last two lines of email. My future, a future with you at my side.
I do.
I as well think you are pretty neato, keen, and most swell, and I am your master Bob.
Yes, I did say that.
Now, that wasn't the last time you spoke to her about finances, is that correct?
I don't recall.
Do you
What's the date of this?
Okay, well, we'll go on. Let's look at 64, 7/15/2011.
Okay.
You once again are professing, can we go to the first paragraph, please?
Pardon me? I can't.
Thank you. The first full paragraph, you indicate to her, I doubt that I can find someone as close to what I want in my life for the rest of my life. You indicated that to her, and that was the truth, correct?
I'm reading it. Let me finish reading it.
Please let him
Okay,
finish.
I didn't know.
He has to read it a little slower because his sight is on.
Yes, that is true. I did write that, and that is exactly what I was telling the judge. That's true.
That's not fantasy.
That you wanted her in your life for the rest of your life,
Did
correct?
you want that?
I doubt that I could find a slave and a submissive in my life as she is. Yes, that's what that was in reference to.
The answer to that question is yes.
What was the question again?
If you would just answer the question directly, sir.
I'm asking you to repeat the question, please.
I want her in my life for the rest of my life. That was true, correct?
That is true.
Now, go on down to the, I think the third full paragraph, where it begins with now, we begin. When you finish reading that to yourself, let me know.
The whole paragraph you want me to read?
The whole
Okay,
paragraph.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Camera's in the way on part of it.
Yeah, I can't see either.
Okay?
Go ahead, counsel,
Okay,
ask
thank
the
you.
question.
Okay. You're talking, in this email, you're again talking about money, is that correct?
That's correct.
You're telling her that you're gonna sell Middlesex?
That's correct.
Okay. And you had intended to sell Middlesex, is that correct?
Pardon me?
You intended to sell Middlesex, is that correct?
Jane and I did intend to sell Middlesex, yes.
What you said, do you see Jane's name up there in that,
No.
email?
No?
Okay, I'm
Okay.
asking about you. You intended to sell Middlesex, is that correct?
That's
In
correct.
that email.
That's correct.
Okay. And you indicate that Rachel will never want for anything, is that correct?
Yes.
Was that the truth or a lie?
It was a fantasy.
Or fantasy.
No, Judge, can I ask my question? That was the truth or a lie?
He says a fantasy.
Okay,
Well,
so the fantasy was a lie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, to the next page on that email, specifically the last paragraph of the next page. So Rachel. Could you read that to yourself, and when you're finished, let me know?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. You describe not having her in my house and the need to hide is a huge rock lifted off of us. A rock I am lifting now. Who is the her you're referring to?
I would think it would be Jane at that point.
Okay. And you're describing Jane or equating Jane with being a huge rock, correct?
No, my life,
With Jane was a huge rock.
no, I'm talking about my whole life as far as the life that I had, yes.
Okay,
The life you had as a husband to Jane?
As in everything, community service, everything.
Okay.
The responsibility of having a large mortgage, that was the big rock.
And that was the rock you were lifting?
By selling Middlesex, yes.
But you didn't specifically say by selling.
I didn't. I summed it up in that sentence.
Okay. And you indicate that you and her are going to have a life together, correct?
We were.
Okay. You and Rachel?
We had a life together.
But in this email,
Yes.
it's implying that once you lift this huge rock, you'd have a life together, correct?
Yes or no?
I'm reading it. She took, oh no, it's the same one.
Yep, same one. And you chose the words for this, didn't you? Sir?
Yes, I did choose those words.
You were sitting at a computer at 9:20 a.m. on 7/15/2011.
Okay.
Probably while your wife is at work, correct?
I don't know, what day is it?
I said probably.
What day is this?
What day is it?
7/20/2011. I mean, excuse me, 7/15/2011.
If it was a weekday, then she was at work,
Okay,
yes.
If it was a weekday. she
I'll
was at
concede to that, yes.
work. Okay. And you're sitting at your computer, and this is a 2-page email. Is this correct? A long email, correct?
I don't know if it's 2 pages. I saw 1 page, but okay.
Irrespective, if it's very long.
It's a long email, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
And you were sitting thinking about what you could say to this woman to get her to stay with you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And once again, you could have at that point in time said, look, I'm not getting divorced. I'm happy with my wife. I'm also happy with you. Deal with it. You could have said that.
I could have said that.
But you did not,
I
correct?
did not.
And why didn't you?
Because she would have left, more than likely. She had wanted to leave a couple times.
Okay,
And I used these...
Wait. You wanted the best of both worlds.
That's correct.
You wanted the world you had with Jane
Yes,
and the world you had with Rachel.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
So you chose, once again, between taking the choice between the truth and a lie, you chose the lie, correct?
Not all that's not lies, no. I plan on selling Middlesex. That's not a lie.
But, okay, stop. But the implications, the impact that it would have on Rachel, that was a lie, correct?
Correct.
So once again, given the choice between the truth and a lie, you chose the lie, correct?
No, not 100%, no.
In this instance, when you're giving Rachel the belief that it's going to just be you and her, that's the lie, right?
No, it's not.
Stop. You said you wanted the best of both worlds, correct?
That's correct.
Rachel didn't want the best of both worlds. She wanted just you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, you're saying these things to lead Rachel to the impression that it's just going to be you and her, correct?
For 2 years, yes.
Thank you. So, back to my original point. Given the choice between telling the truth and a lie, you chose the lie, correct?
Yes or no, Mr.
Yes. Fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that was because the lie was beneficial to you, correct?
Yes.
And if you told the lie, you wouldn't lose both.
I'm sorry?
And if you told them both, if you told Rachel this lie, you wouldn't lose her. And you had Jane. So you wouldn't have lost anyone, right?
I don't understand your question.
You had Jane.
Correct. And I had Rachel.
And you had Rachel.
Correct.
But in order to continue to have Rachel, you had to tell her this lie. Is that correct?
For 3 years, we went back and forth.
But you told her lies.
That's correct. And she lied to me as well.
But you told her lies about you leaving your wife. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're the master, right?
That's correct.
So if you're the master, don't you control the tenor of the relationship?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Now, Rachel, you asked Rachel to come to your house to mingle in with the mourners on the day your wife's body was found, correct?
I sought solace.
Yes or no? Did you not invite Rachel into your wife's home on the day her body was found?
No,
Yes or no?
not on the 25th. On the 26th, I did.
Okay. Well, 24 hours later, yes or no?
48 hours later,
48
yes.
hours later.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
In your home that you share with Jane.
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. Let's stand up and take a stretch break. Can attorneys approach right quick for a minute, please? November 4th, okay? And then we'll have another one, okay? All right, good. Okay, good. So can you do any day? Start today? The last couple of days? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Now, in the fall of 2011, in September and October, fall 2011, you first met Joe Gentz, is that correct?
I did not meet Joe Gentz until October.
Is that the fall of 2011?
Yes.
Thank you. This is what I'm asking about.
We said September, and I was correcting you.
I said September, October, the fall.
Correct.
Okay. And also in the fall of 2011, sometime in September, you started you signed the agreement to buy Kensington, correct?
To which, I didn't hear the rest of that. I signed an agreement is what I heard.
To buy the house on Kensington, correct?
I don't recall when it was.
But it was in the fall of 2011, correct?
I think you're right, yes.
Okay, thank you. So, the fall of 2011, you meet Gintz. Fall of 2011, you sign the thing for Kensington, correct?
A purchase agreement, yes.
But in the fall of 2011, you also moved Jane move the things in the garage so Jane is finally able to park in the garage. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
When do you move the things out of the garage?
Okay. Can you pull the book with the transcript, please? Book with the transcript, sir.
Go to this transcript?
Yes, sir.
Which day?
I'm waiting till you get it open. The 26th, when you gave your statement to the police.
The 25th, you say?
26th, when you gave your statement to the police. January 26th. Page 28.
Okay, I'm there. What page?
28.
28.
Yes.
I'm on 28.
Could you read starting at the beginning to the middle of the page where Detective Olson says okay? Let me know when you're finished, sir.
I am finished.
Okay. And do you indicate that for years, not years, months, she said, when am I going to be able to park in the garage? And I have shit everywhere. And I said, I'll clean the garage out for you. And finally, I got her, in the fall, I got her into the garage. Do you indicate that?
I did indicate that.
Okay, thank you. And certainly,
Are we done with these?
keep it on your lap, sir, you might need it.
Okay.
Now, in October of 2011, you had substantial phone contact with Gintz. Phone-to-phone contact. Do you recall that?
I don't recall you say substantial. There were a number of calls that didn't connect.
Okay, fine. That might be so. But the records indicate that in the month of October, there were 147 phone contacts between you and Gintz, with Gintz initiating the most of them. The phone records indicate that
Who indicated most of them? Who?
Gintz.
Okay.
Okay. And it indicates that in October, he initiated phone contact with you 92 times. Okay? In October,
Okay.
you did not call the police or ask for special attention, correct?
That's correct.
And you did not find anything he did in October harassing or threatening, correct?
Not at all.
Okay. In October of that year, you got a letter from Dean Calcaterra, 2011.
I got a letter from Dan Calcaterra.
Is that Dan? Yes.
I
Related to the mortgage. You recall?
I had Dan craft a letter for me, yes.
And when you met Gintz and you got the apartment for him, did you realize that he was slow?
When I met him and got the apartment for him, is that when I first met him, I knew he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. No.
Okay. And you had to help him fill out his rental agreement?
I what?
You had to help him fill out his rental agreement?
I did fill it out for him.
Okay.
Most of it.
And you actually filled out the receipt for the payment of his rent, first month.
I have it here. Let me refer to it. asking about the rental agreement or the receipt?
I was asking about the receipt, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's a receipt, yes, I did fill that out.
Okay. And when you met him for the first time, you said, you indicated it was in St. Clair Shores, is that correct?
I did not hear you.
When you met him, you said it was in St. Clair Shores for the first time, correct?
That's correct, at my apartment building.
And how did he get there, if you know?
How did he get there?
Yes.
I do not know.
Okay. When you got there, was he there? Or did he?
No, I was there. He walked up and then I think he called me and said, I'm here.
But you didn't see how he arrived, is that correct?
I did not see how he
And
arrived.
there's
No.
nobody to verify that first meeting, is that correct?
No one to verify what?
That first meeting between you and Gintz, correct?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. And when he came to do yard work at your home, he was alone, is that correct?
When he came where?
To do yard work at your home, he was alone, correct?
Yes.
You don't, how did he get to your home?
I don't know.
Okay. How did he get to your home?
Well, twice I drove him. I picked him up.
Okay. So you went and picked him up?
The times that I did, yes.
Okay. So you never gave him directions to your home?
I did.
Okay. Well, if you picked him up, strike that, okay. If you picked him up, why did you need to give him directions to your home?
Because the time I picked him up was not the first time he came over.
Oh.
The first time he came over, I assumed, walked, and I gave him directions.
Okay. Now, let's talk about November 2011.
Pardon?
Let's talk about November 2011.
Okay.
Phone records show that there are 152 phone contacts. Your
And
phone,
what month?
November 2011.
Okay.
Okay.
Phone records show 152 phone contacts between the phones,
Okay.
with Gintz initiating the most.
With what?
Gintz initiating most calls. Gintz
Okay.
called you 87 times.
Okay.
That month. Okay. During that month, that's also the month that you file your report on Mr. Popham, and he only contacted you 35 times that month.
Yes or no?
Based on what you said in that statement that you wrote out, that Popham contacted you about 35 times. Is that correct?
I don't recall how many times, no.
Okay.
I think it was a lot, yes. I think it was 30, 35, I don't recall.
Okay.
I may have just made up a number and you know, it was a lot.
Okay. But certainly, 87 times that Gintz initiated contact is substantially more than 35. Is that correct?
That's correct. It is substantially more.
You chose to make a report on Popham, but not a report on Gintz, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Gintz was not doing anything threatening or anything to you during this time, and you weren't afraid of him, correct?
No, he was not, and I was not afraid of him.
Thank you. And also during the month of November 2011, do you craft an investment opportunity flyer?
Did I what?
Did you craft an investment opportunity flyer? Did you pass out an investment opportunity flyer?
Investment opportunity flyer.
Yes.
I don't recall.
Can I have 141? Look behind you. You recall that, sir?
Yes, I do recall that now, yes.
Okay. And were you passing these out to people in November of 2011?
Yes.
Okay. And you were trying to get people to invest in something, is that correct?
You know, I don't actually recall the date of this, but it was around the first of the year, around before or around Christmas. I don't recall the date.
Okay.
I was doing it for Patrick Webb.
Okay. Patrick Webb, the witness who came in, and he's in Kentucky now, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And he was the witness who came in here and said that, and you were friends with him at that point in time, is that correct?
No. Was I friends with him? No.
Okay.
Well, then why were you crafting a flyer to get people to invest for?
We were acquaintances, and he ran the reformatory, and he was having trouble. And like everyone else I interacted with, I tried to help him. This is simply an offer. I'm acting as his agent, if you will, to people I knew. I went to a couple people that I had known, provided this to him, and there was no interest, and so I told him I couldn't help him.
Okay, very good.
Okay. But at any rate, you're going to people, you're not telling them this is for a BDSM facility, is that correct?
I'm not telling him what?
You're not telling the people you're passing this out to that the money you're raising is for a BDSM facility, are you?
It wasn't just for that. He did other things at his location as well.
But part of it was for BDSM,
Part of it was, that's correct. And it doesn't say that in there because that's a private matter.
Okay. Well, at any rate, Patrick Webb is the person who came. Do you recall having a conversation with Patrick Webb where you said it would be cheaper to kill the bitch?
No, I never had that conversation with him.
Okay. He just came in here and made that.
That's a lie. That's correct.
Okay. During this time in November, you're also seeking somebody to start a polyamorous relationship with you and Rachel. You're seeking a third person.
When is this now?
November 2011.
Well, I may have started one in November, but we were looking for a number of months, actually a year prior to that.
So
Wait a minute,
answer
go
that
ahead, let him
question is
finish,
yes?
go ahead. No, just let him finish.
Yeah.
You were looking for what?
Your Honor, when I got into the
No,
lifestyle,
I don't want to hear all of that.
Well-
What were you looking for specifically?
I was looking for submissives to help
But you
and to interact with me as that I had had happened over a period of 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so in November 2011, you and Rachel were looking for someone else?
She wrote a profile that said we seek a third, and that was her profile, that was her desire. It wasn't just for me. She also wanted a bisexual experience.
Okay, very good, but I got a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
In order to keep her, you had to lie to her to keep her in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you allow her to bring somebody else into the relationship when she obviously wasn't happy with the situation?
She wanted a third. She wanted a girlfriend.
Why get rid of her? You too much trouble. I'm going to replace you.
I thought about that a couple times.
And what happened?
And the people I talked to and my experiences of searching for another one outside of her were not good. And I realized that, you know what, the person I have is sufficient, and I'll keep her, and I'll do what it takes to keep her.
You'll do whatever it takes to keep her.
Not whatever it takes.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Now, you indicated that it's Rachel's blog and everything, but you gave her permission to do that blog, correct?
Pardon me?
You gave Rachel permission to put forth that blog, is that correct?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, she had to submit the blog to you, run it by you before she published it.
She did not do that every time, no.
No, but on this time, in November, when you were seeking the third person, did you inspect what she said before she put it on the blog?
No.
Okay. You said not every time, but she was supposed to submit it to you, correct? That was the rule that you made, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And in November 2011, on 11/22, you had contact with Janet Lehman, is that correct?
I don't recall. I probably did, more than likely.
Well, do you recall asking Janet Lehman about relocating to Detroit?
That was a part of the fantasy, yes.
Okay, part of the fantasy that you were going to relocate to, she was going to relocate to Detroit, and you three were all going to live in the house on Kensington.
And this is what date?
Sir, just listen to my question first.
I am.
Part of the fantasy is that you, a third person, and Rachel were going to live together on the house in Kensington. That was the fantasy, correct?
That was Rachel's fantasy.
A fantasy that you were sharing in, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it was both your fantasies, correct?
It was Rachel's fantasy that I went along with. That's
so
correct.
Is Rachel calling the shots at this point?
No.
You're the master, correct?
I didn't what?
You're the master, correct?
I am the master.
Okay.
Now, in December, Joe Gentz only calls you 40 times, so the times he's contacting you is dropping off. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you say so. I don't have the records in front of me, so I'm believing you.
And certainly, in December, he did nothing to make you afraid of him, correct?
I did what?
He did nothing to make you afraid of him in December, correct?
No, he did not.
He did nothing to lead you to believe that he was going to harm your family, correct?
That's correct.
And you certainly didn't call the police to report him or get special attention on your house, is that correct?
I did not.
In December, you also contact Jim Wilson, is that correct?
In December, yes.
2011.
Jim Wilson and I talked fairly regular, but yes.
Okay. And so you contacted Jim Wilson for a specific purpose this time in December of 2011.
That's correct.
And that was for the purpose of giving you an alibi for Rachel's daughter's wedding, is that correct?
Yes,
And you specifically told him if anybody asked him that you were down there with him golfing, is that correct?
that's correct.
And you did not want Jane to know where you were, is that correct?
Jane, I think, knew I was not in South Carolina, or not in Florida, and was going somewhere else. But I don't know what she. I did tell her that. Yes.
You told her I'm going. Oh, wait. If Jane knew you were going somewhere else, why did you have to call Jim Wilson a lie?
First of all, I called Jim Wilson prior to talking to Jane about it. Well, you asked me a question. I'm answering it.
Well, let her answer it now, madam.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
All right.
Mr. Bashara.
I knew that the kids were coming home, and that I was going to be, leaving was going to be for a week was going to be a hardship, if you will. That there was going to be some questions. So in an effort not to throw Jane under the bus or to do anything, I came up with this: I'm going golfing, and that I don't think Jane. I think Jane knew I wasn't doing that, but she didn't question it. And I told her that, and she told the kids that, and I told the kids that. And
Well, let's back up to, you said not to throw Jane under the bus.
well, yeah, I mean,
Wait a minute, hold on for a minute.
yes.
What did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is I believe Jane knew I wasn't going to Florida. She knew that I was going somewhere else, okay, because I shared
So
with her.
you told her a lie that you thought she wanted to hear.
The what?
You told her a lie that
Yes.
you thought she wanted to hear.
I told her a lie to give her an out to family and friends over the holiday, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let's talk about the holidays.
I'm not saying that my decisions were right.
There's no question. Go ahead.
Okay,
Let's talk about the holidays.
let's talk about what?
The holidays.
Okay,
Your children are coming home from school, correct?
correct.
But you chose to spend time with Rachel and her family over your own children, correct?
No, that's not correct.
You did not leave during the holiday season to be
When
with Rachel.
specifically?
December 2011. You did not leave during that holiday season,
No, I did not. I was there until after Christmas. That's correct.
but your children were there longer than that. Is that correct?
They were there before Christmas, and I spent time with them,
My question
and they were
is-
there after Christmas,
Okay.
yes.
So, the point is, your children are there for the whole holiday season.
No,
correct?
they were not.
The whole holiday season that you could have shared with them, correct?
No, they were not. My daughter left for Chicago on the 27th or 28th.
Okay. But at any rate,
Yes,
rather than bring in the new year with your Jane, the woman you love,
Mm-hmm.
you chose to bring in the new year with someone else, correct?
no. I chose to help a woman help her daughter have a wedding.
So once again, you chose them over your wife at this point, correct?
During that time frame, yes. I left
Thank you.
Michigan, yes.
Thank you.
Well, wait a minute. What were you doing that was so substantial other than paying money to assist in this wedding for Rachel's daughter?
I did a number of things to help her
That
out.
was so substantial that they couldn't do the wedding without you.
Which they could have easily done the wedding without me.
But you
But
said, wait a minute. You,
I'm answering your question.
No, you be quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
You said,
Judge.
all right, fine. You said that you were there helping a woman who was Rachel with this wedding.
Correct.
Over your children. My question is to you, what was your role that was so substantial that you had to be with Rachel and her family opposed to being with your Jane and your family?
I was with my family. Okay, it wasn't
When you
over
left
them.
them.
When I left them, yes, I was with Rachel. I drove her to Florida to save her on the airfare. I helped with making the arrangements for the place where they stayed.
You
and
did that beforehand.
That's correct.
So basically just driving her there?
And helping pay for things.
But you could have done that before you went there.
And when Rachel had a issue during that time, I was there.
What issue?
She had an issue with her daughter. Her daughter wasn't spending enough time with her, and she was upset. And I was there for emotional support as well.
Okay. But you didn't know that was going to happen until you got there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So basically, you could have stayed home with your family. You already paid for everything and organized.
I could have, yes.
But you chose to be.
No, I did not. Hang on, I did not pay for everything prior to that. No.
What did you pay for prior?
When I went there, I had to pay for the limousine. I paid for some of the booze. I helped set up the hall.
Okay, go ahead. That's enough.
Sir, didn't you promise her, and didn't you promise Rachel in a previous email that you would be spending New Year's with her because she was complaining about not being able to spend time with you?
Did you say that?
In the past, she had complained that I didn't. I spent time with Jane.
So the answer to that question is yes.
Did you send her email and say that?
I recall sending or talking to her about that. Yes, I don't know if it was in an email or what it was in, but yes.
Okay. And isn't it the fact that you left for Rachel's daughter's wedding on December 26th, the day right after Christmas?
That's correct.
Now, when you went to the wedding, you took part in all the festivities, is that correct?
Well, I'm sorry.
When you went to Rachel's daughter's wedding, you took part in all the festivities, is that correct?
Not all of them, no.
But you were there for a good portion of it, and you sort of acted like the father of the bride, correct?
I helped in whatever way I could.
Can you have the pictures?
But I did not walk the girl down the aisle. That's what the father of the bride would do. I took a back seat to the to Rachel and her children, but I did try to offer that support as like a father would of the bride would do. Yes. Yeah.
And certainly, let me just ask you a little bit about this supposed understanding that you and Rachel had.
Okay.
You and Jane had. I'll assume, based on what you said, that the understanding that you had with Jane is that you could go out and get your physical needs met. Is that correct?
Could do what?
Go out and get your physical needs met. Correct?
She said, do what you need to do. Yes.
Okay. And that was related to your physical needs. Is that correct?
I don't think that was specifically with that. It was the majority of it was for that. Yes, that's correct.
And when did this understanding supposedly come about?
Back 2004, 2005, when we had our issues.
Okay. But within the last year, like in 2010, you in fact had started going to marriage counseling.
We did it for several reasons, yes.
My question is, in 2010, you were in marriage counseling. Correct?
That's correct.
And there were rough patches in your marriage, is that correct?
No, I would say no, there weren't.
You're saying there were no rough patches in your marriage?
No, I'm not saying there was none. Certainly, you show me one couple that doesn't have a rough patch. Yes, there were minor rough patches, but certainly not enough to warrant a marriage counselor.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, we can go on, but we got to.
Do you want me to clarify that?
Not now.
Okay.
I'll see everybody November 13th.
When?
November 13th at 11 a.m. I have a judicial conference to go to next week, and I'm starting another trial on November 2nd. Sit down.
Your Honor, I have an issue, and I don't know if you want me to discuss it in open court, but I'm not getting all of my medication over at the jail.
Do you want me to send you back?
I don't want to go back. I want to work with my attorney and my investigators, but I also want proper care.
Okay, very good. This is what I need to do. I'm going to mark it medical, and whatever medicine he's not getting, make sure that he's getting. If there's an issue, Mr. Ambrose, bring it to my attention forthwith, please.
I'll do that.
All right, very good. I'll see everybody on November 13th at 11. I have the transcripts available. Okay. The third, madam. November 3rd, they'll be available. Did you hear that, Ms. Lindsay? November 3rd, the transcripts